Welcome to the Old Kirk and Kirkyard at Logie, where there has been a centre of worship for over 1,000 years. In 2007, Logie Old Graveyard Group was constituted with the aim of securing its place as an interesting historic site with one of the best collections of 17th and 18th century gravestones in Scotland. An interpretive panel, providing a brief summary of the long history of the site, was designed by a senior pupil at Wallace High School to give passers-by a little bit of information about the site. As 18th century Edinburgh was an important European centre for medical studies, and students had to provide a cadaver for dissection, grave robbery became common, particularly in remote areas. So watch huts were built at the entrances to kirkyards, where families or a watchman could keep watch overnight to ensure that loved ones rested unmolested. The watch hut at Logie also served as a toll house when drovers brought their cattle south to market. This watch hut is now a small information centre where records of the gravestones are available for genealogical researchers. A photographic record of the restoration work done on site is also available and on display. The project entailed recording the position and inscriptions for every gravestone around the church. In 2009, archaeologists checking the foundations before the restoration work agreed that the church, dated 1598, was built in the footprint of an earlier building recorded in 1380. Believed to have been the work of local architect Tobias Backup, the building would have been much larger than the ruin today, the two arched windows being a central feature of medieval design. When the church became too small, it was extended by the tradesmen of the parish, who built in 3 galleries for their own use in 1684. The large rectangular opening is not a window, but the doorway to the galleries, which would have been accessed by an external wooden staircase. The sundial, high on the corner beside the door, dated 1684, marks this extension. The old kirk did not fall into ruin. By 1805, costly repairs were needed, and Lord Abercrombie of Airthry gifted a plot of land to the south for a new church to be built. The old kirk was dismantled, and its stones were carried downhill to become the foundation of the new church. To retain the character of the kirkyard, the part of the building seen today was retained at a cost of £3, 10 shillings to the builder for the loss of the building material. When the area at the east end of the ruin was later cleared and used for burial enclosures, the original 1598 date stone was recovered and set into the small window at the front of the church for safekeeping. When the renovations of 2007 began, it was discovered to be missing and was presumed lost. One day, however, a gentleman arrived with a parcel containing the stone. His father had found it lying loose on the ground over 60 years ago and advised the authorities that it should be replaced. Nothing was done until his son read about the restoration work in the press and brought it back to us. We took it to the window and fitted it into the place, just like the last piece of a jigsaw. The graveyard records the lives of our ancestors who lived, worked and worshipped at Logie in the past. Every stone has its own story, and with the recent surge in interest in family history, these fascinating life stones are being discovered. This stone, for example, is a memorial to the Toward family, who served Logie well for almost 200 years as clerks, bellmen and gravediggers between 1598 and 1739. It was incredible to discover while working in the graveyard that 10 generations on, I myself am descended from this family. Older stones seldom have full written inscriptions. Some have only initials, others are carved with interesting trades and mortality symbols. The skull and the crossbones is a mortality symbol, a reminder that death comes to all, the skull being the seat of the soul, and the crossbones representing the journey to the hereafter. This happy little fellow does not seem too concerned about it. Beautifully carved with resurrection wings, mortality symbols, an open Bible and a shoemaker's knife, this stone is a real treasure. It marks the burial place of Margaret Clayson, the first wife of James Bryce of Pathfoot, owner of the hostelry used by cattle drovers on their journey south. The crown indicates that Bryce was a high-class shoemaker working with fine metals, making silver buckles and decorations for his footwear. He also owned the local tannery, the leather from which made the Pathfoot famous 18th century centre for shoemaking. This well-to-do businessman fathered 19 children by his 3 wives. Dutch descendants of the family visit regularly and have provided much interesting background information about the family. As part of the project, a huge ivy root was removed from the side wall, which was repaired. Stones were erected and new grass was sown. The gable end houses the memorials to the Graham family, a family with a long and important Scottish heritage and association with Airthry. In 1889, Donald Graham bought the Airthry estates, returning it to family ownership and ensuring that the rights of the memorials on the gable end. This striking memorial is to the Airthry Angels, 2 of Donald Graham's young granddaughters, who perished in the Great Fire that destroyed Herbertshire Castle in 1914. Above the doorway, this badly eroded stone dates from 1696 and commemorates the ministry of Alexander Douglas. Rumour tells that his grandfather had links to Mary Queen of Scots and the Douglases of Lochleven. With no recorded proof, it remains an interesting legend. Originally above the door of the original manse, the stone was set into the wall for safekeeping, but sadly time and weather have eroded it badly, although we're fortunate enough to have a good clear photograph of its original state. The Graham family retain rights to the memorials on the gable, each one with its own interesting and exciting story about different members of this important family. This was the usual entrance used by worshippers coming to Logie from Bridge of Allen, who used the footpath at Pathfoot, as the north gate was seldom used. Superstitious belief meant that the north side of the church was not used for Christian burial. Records do, however, indicate the burial of an unnamed Highlander who was found dead in the parish following the Battle of Sheriff Muir. It was only as superstition died out and ground became scarce that the burials took place, and these are more modern. This beautifully carved memorial is to William York Mcgregor, the Scottish artist, and mentor to young Scottish artists who became affectionately known as the father of the Glasgow Boys. Today, only ashes can be interred in the kirkyard, and only those people with legal rights to the layers. Another Graham memorial, this stone was originally the keystone of the arched entrance of Airthry Castle. The Graham Crest features 3 scallop shells indicating pilgrimages to the shrine of St. James at Santiago de Compostela, the crest being a reminder of the family's ancient salmon fishing rights on the River Allen. From the back of the ruin looking up above the gallery doorway is a special date stone 2011, inserted to commemorate the restoration work done by Logie Og. The other building on the site is a schoolhouse. The earliest instruction was provided by the church, and pupils would have gathered here for instruction by the minister. It would have been very informal until a schoolmaster was appointed by the church. The schoolmaster acted also as clerk of the church when early records began. When the church was dismantled, the area behind was divided into smaller sections and became grave enclosures. The large Fireplace memorial is to the Reverend Clayson, who was the last minister to conduct worship in the Old Kirk. It is a fine memorial, but now in need of restoration work. Moving down the graveyard, we're past the Ferguson Enclosure. Some railings here were removed during the Second World War as part of the war effort. Those that remain have been repaired and refurbished. Logie is recorded as having 2 Norse hogbacks. These burial markers were shaped like the roof of the Norse longhouses and carved with markings like roofing shingles. This one was broken up about 1880 by an over-enthusiastic gravedigger making way for a new burial. This one is in better condition, although the markings are nearly all eroded. On a good day, if the sun shines in the stone, they can still be distinguished. Work of trade symbols were frequently carved on gravestones. This one is clearly the mark of a gravedigger. Home industry was common, and this shovel represents a maltman, but the shuttle also suggests some home weaving with home brewing. With Pathfoot village the centre of shoemaking, there are several shoemakers buried in the kirkyard, indicated by the leather worker's knife. Surmounted by a crown, it indicates a high-class workman who also dealt with fine metals and saddlery. At first glance, the kirkyard appears to be a random scattering of gravestones, but viewed from the tower, the lines can be seen quite clearly. This enabled us to make a plan of the graveyard, giving the location of each stone, which, along with the photographic survey, is a great resource for family research. The work done on site was recognised when we were highly commended for an Andrew Lloyd Webber Award in 2017. We hope that you have enjoyed this short tour of the Old Kirk and that you will come and visit us for a personal tour one day.